Even with the addition of these safety railings, the Sagamore Bridge and the Bourne Bridge still retain a highly dramatic presence. In all the times I've driven across them, they never fail to provoke a shiver of fear as I contemplate how far up I am and how far down it would be if somehow my car were to plunge over the abyss. Then I think of what happened to the old man, and my blood turns cold with dread. The incident I'm referring to was something I learned about while having dinner at the Dock Street Chowder House. I was in the company of Captain Waverly Underhill, the retired police captain, who at this moment was participating in a little exercise that had become something of a ritual whenever we had dinners together. In its original concept, these were supposed to be lessons in the art of criminal detection, something I had dreamed up. You see, it seemed to me, since he was obviously so good at it, that it must be possible for him to elucidate his methods clearly enough that someone else, namely me, could understand them and even put them to use. Typically, at first, he resisted the idea, and finally he relented when I made him feel guilty for not even trying. I expected some sort of informal lectures on criminality, interspersed with anecdotes that would draw heavily upon his own experiences. Instead, we began by playing an infuriatingly stupid child's game called 20 Questions.
A man dies on board a sailboat in the waters off Cape Cod. How does he die?
What? You mean that's all you're going to give me?
I repeat, a man dies on board a sailboat in the waters off Cape Cod. How does he die?
Well, then, was he drowned?
No.
Or did the boom hit him in the head and knock him overboard?
No.
So he didn't die in the water, he died on the boat.
That's what I said.
Well, I realize that, but I was just probing a little. Now then, we know he died on the boat. So, did the boat catch on fire?
No, it did not.
Was his death by natural causes?
No.
Was it accidental?
No.
So, it was foul play. He was murdered.
Yes.
Aha. Now we're getting somewhere. Someone came on board his boat and murdered him.
Honestly, Doctor, you physicians amaze me. You're so accustomed to rattling off rapid-fire questions at your patients so you can quickly make up an illness that you don't stop to consider how you're phrasing your questions.
What was it I said?
You asked if someone came on board his boat and murdered him. You didn't ask me if it was his boat.
All right, then. Was it his boat?
No, it was not.
It was someone else's boat, and he was a guest on board.
No, he was not.
Well, I take it there were other people on board besides him. I mean, if he was murdered, there must have been at least one other person.
Yes, there were other people.
And one of them murdered him.
No.
No?
No?
Why no? How can someone murder someone if they're not there to do it? You mean the murder was somewhere else? Back on shore?
Yes.
Well, how can a person on shore murder someone on a boat? Unless by a bullet. Was he shot?
No.
Was there a bomb planted on board?
No.
Was he given some kind of slow-acting poison that didn't take effect?
You're guessing, Doctor. Don't guess. There is a difference between asking questions and guessing.
Well, I am trying to be logical.
Yes, be logical. But also use your imagination. Logic can only lead the mind, but the imagination can illuminate it. Sherlock Holmes was precisely wrong on this point. He said that a detective must remain logical and not allow his mind to jump to conclusions, when in fact the mind should be leaping to as many conclusions as the evidence supports. Anyone can gather evidence and interpret it logically, but it takes a strong imagination to perceive the many other possibilities that exist. When the mind sees only one possibility, it becomes stuck. That is what happened to you.
I don't even know what it is I'm supposed to be stuck on.
The image, Doctor, the image. The picture you formed in your mind when I set up the situation. I said a man dies on board a sailboat in the waters off Cape Cod. You immediately pictured a sailboat on Cape Cod Bay, or Nantucket Sound, or Buzzards Bay.
Well, what other water is there?
Are you forgetting the canal?
The canal? What has the canal got to do with it? Oh, now wait a minute. You said he was murdered on the boat, but the murderer was on shore.
No, Doctor. I said he was murdered, and that he died on the boat. But I didn't say he was murdered on the boat.
Well, what difference does it make if he was... Hold it. I just thought of something. He jumped, didn't he? No, wait. He was murdered, so he didn't jump. He was pushed. He was pushed off one of the bridges, and he landed on a sailboat passing underneath.
Bravo, Doctor. Excellent. Once you got on track, you performed brilliantly.
Well, Waverly, I have to say that certainly falls into the category of a trick question. If you hadn't given me that last clue, honestly, if I'm expected to guess these things, there ought to be at least a certain amount of realism to it. Where in the world did you come up with such an outlandish plot anyway?
Believe it or not, I didn't make it up. At least not all of it. It happens to be very similar to a case I was involved in not too many years ago, not long after my retirement. It was a murder case that had been mislabeled a suicide, until I read the dead man's obituary in the newspaper and pointed out a few details to the police that caused them to quickly reopen the investigation.
Hi, are you my ride?
That's right. Hop in.